many issues, COVID, other crises, but he just has that can-do attitude that is contagious and gives the confidence to all the constituents. So again, I want to thank my great friend and partner in government, Pat Ryan, our county executive. Another strong ally, Michelle Hinchy, our senator, saw her on Friday, and she was instrumental in making sure that we had warming centers set up in places like Woodstock and Socrates, and so really hands-on the way you want your elected officials to be, so I want to thank her for her partnership as well. Also, yes, when there's a war, you call out the National Guard. Our war against the weather this weekend, I want to thank Isabel Smith, our Brigadier General from the New York National Guard, and all the guards, men and women, that I had a chance to personally thank, go up to them and show my appreciation. They are there on a moment's notice to go wherever the need is greatest, and I want to thank them for always being there for us. And when there is storms, our storms, and there's ice, and there's power lines coming down, you want a utility company that is responsive. And I want to thank the people of Central Hudson, who normally have about 130 lines, people on the ground working the utilities, and whatever challenges come up. They have deployed over 1,000 individuals, bringing people from other parts of the country to reinforce their efforts. So that has made an enormous difference, and that's how you have the opportunity to go from literally 65,000 homes without power just a few days ago to having the power restored to now having about 7,800 down. And we believe that by this evening, and I can be updated on this if there's been a change, it should be 95% restored in this county, which we're very, very optimistic about and are proud of them. And again, they've been great. Central Hudson's been great in terms of their communication with us, really at the granular level, making sure we knew everything, not creating false expectations, dealing in the reality of the circumstance. So I want to thank them for all they've done. And you'll be hearing from Ryan Hawthorne, who's the VP of Operations as well, and also Charles Frenny is the CEO, who literally is on the ground here as well. Also, the other volunteers you don't see. You go to a warming center, and you see not just the Red Cross, who are doing an exceptional job, but also the animal rescue volunteers. Yes, these are the people who rescued iguanas and birds and cats and dogs and everything that you could possibly think of, making sure they had the food. I didn't get into a big conversation about what an iguana eats, but if I said better keep that little bird separated from them. So we have people that are just doing extraordinary things. And to go to the warming centers as I did in Rosendale and here in Kingston, and to see the people whose lives have been touched by this. A 92-year-old gentleman who literally celebrated his birthday in the warming center. Not what he had planned, but he was so optimistic. He was playing cards with one of his new best friends and told me that the 1940s and 50s he traveled the world singing vaudeville, singing in performances. And so, of course, I asked him if he would sing a song for this. So if you check our website, I'm sure he'll be featured very prominently in a matter of time. So these are the very human stories that are out there that need to be told, because yes, it looks like a weather event, and you look at the metrics and what the wind is and the wind chill factor and how long the ice will last, et cetera, but there's people whose lives are turned upside down when the power goes out. And it is a frightening time, especially if you have children who need to be fed and everything in your freezer has now melted away and nothing in your refrigerator can be used anymore. And you can't turn on a stove to heat even a can of soup. These are scary times for people. So I just want to again extend my heartfelt gratitude to the people who made a challenging situation be the very best it can be, and I want to thank everyone who's been involved in this. So with that, you'll get a more detailed analysis about the people we had on the ground. I was at the Thruway Authority Maintenance Center on Friday afternoon talking about how we're deploying DOT crews, Thruway Authority crews, everybody we can get to be it was all hands on deck, and Jackie Bray will describe that as well. So we're feeling good about the restoration of power. Continue to do what I asked people to do when I was covered talking about this on Saturday. People that are vulnerable, they need to be checked on. This is when we show that New Yorkers are great neighbors, especially in our rural communities. Homes are not necessarily close to each other. You can kind of forget someone who's a little further down the road. That may be the person who needs the most help with their animals, or an aging parent, or someone who needs medicine. And even during a pandemic, I went into one of the warming centers, and they had to have a separate area for people who were testing positive for COVID. Again, we're not out of this yet, my friends, and so they had to be sensitive to making sure that we could keep individuals separate. So this is what they had to deal with over the last couple of days here since Friday afternoon. And again, I want to thank everybody for truly rising to the occasion, inspiring me as the governor of New York to know that when a disaster strikes, we have the people with the experience and also the compassion and the willingness to do what is extraordinary. And lastly, before I turn over to the commissioner, I cannot get the image of my head out, get the image out of my head of just seeing the lines on the ground on a road we were just visiting. And that road had, it was Binwater Road. It was one of the many roads. I think there were over 100 roads that were shut down initially, and now we're down to about 14 or so roads. But I had a chance to speak to some of the, I guess they're called lineswomen. They're all gentlemen, so I'll call them linesmen. And talking about the job they have when it's dark out, and they're required to navigate the ice and the sleet that's hitting their faces, and they're supposed to go up a pole and to restore electrical power. Think about the courage that is involved with that single act. And these people were so courageous. These are really some of the unsung heroes. People are willing to go out there in all kinds of weather, adverse circumstances, and just do their job to be able to turn on that switch so we can have the power for our homes and to be able to take care of our families. And so I want to thank them as well. I don't think they get the recognition they deserve in storms like this. So with that, Commissioner Bray, you'll be hearing from Senator Hinchy as well, and our County Executive, Pat Ryan, as well as our friends from Central Hudson, who are working tirelessly as soon as they leave here. I'm sure we'll see them on a pole as we're driving away, because these guys are very hands-on. I want to thank everyone involved. And with that, Commissioner Jackie Bray.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you. I want to first just extend my thanks to the Governor, whose leadership is indispensable in a response like this, and thank County Executive Pat Ryan. The partnership between the state and the county has been important for our response. In terms of state resources, the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services began our work with the county to prepare for this storm about 5 or 6 days ago. On Friday morning, we embedded here at the County Emergency Operations Center, where our team has been since. We only go home when they go home. During the event, we had over 250 DOT and thruway crews in this area, in this county, clearing roads. As soon as the event ended, those crews transitioned over to focus on dark traffic signals to get those back, and then partnered up with state parks to supplement the county and the local cut and toss crews, removing trees from roads. We've had about 24 National Guards, men and women, here on the ground since day one. Really grateful to the National Guard that they could mobilize so quickly, helping both with a hotline and with our warming shelters. The state has provided cots and blankets and food and water and several generators throughout the event. The New York State Police teamed up with local law enforcement to perform wellness checks throughout the day yesterday and the prior day to make sure that our most vulnerable New Yorkers in this county didn't feel trapped, that they had a way to get to warmth if they needed it. Our tax and finance division has been helping the county staff a hotline so that I'm sure the county executive will give that hotline number, but so that residents who need to get out of their home, who need to get warming, who have a need or an issue that isn't an emergency, we don't want you using 911 when it's not an emergency. So tax and finance stepped in because that's where the state's principal call center capacity is. And just today, our Department of Financial Services contacted over 150 insurance providers here in the county to make sure that they will have sufficient adjusters on the ground. As power comes back on, we believe that homeowners will discover issues with their homes, whether that's a burst pipe or other damage from the storm. We want to make sure that our insurance providers in this county are on the ground and have sufficient adjusters. And so our Department of Financial Services has engaged this morning, will stay engaged. I want to offer their hotline. If you're an Ulster County resident and you have questions about your insurance coverage, or you're having difficulty getting a response from your insurance coverage, you can call 339-1759 to be connected to our storm damage hotline. And now just a second on as you are a homeowner and you're getting back into your home and hopefully power has been restored. It's been restored to about 88% of our homes without power at this point. You want to make sure that you're aware that you might have frozen or burst pipes. The first thing you want to do is to check the places where your pipes can be visually checked for frost, for condensation. You want to check for leaks. If you do have leaks anywhere, if your water is off, don't turn your water back on, call a plumber. If you don't have leaks anywhere, if you don't see that frost, if you don't see that condensation, you want to turn your faucets on, see how your pressure is. If you have lower pressure, that also might be an indication that you need to call a plumber. But be careful and be conscious that as you get back into your house, there are some simple steps you can take to avoid potential flooding in the event that something in your plumbing was disrupted during the storm. You can find more of that at redcross.org. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our great partner, County Executive Pat Ryan.
Thank you, Jackie. Governor, can't thank you enough. You were here Friday morning. Feels like a week ago, but it was only a few days ago. After you spoke to that lineman, Governor, out on Binneywater Road where we just were, which is some of our most severe damage, the governor had walked away. I was standing there with a lineman. He said, "Wow, that is awesome that the governor was out here." And I think he was, like all of us, both a little surprised but more humbled and just proud to have you here on the ground, understanding the impacts and the damage, marshaling resources. We couldn't have got through this without you and your team. So thank you, and I'm just so proud of our community. We've rallied in all kinds of ways to get through really an unprecedented winter storm for us. I grew up here. I've spent my life here. We're all trying to search in our memory to remember one quite like this with this amount of ice and damage, and just certainly in the last decade or two, we've not had damage like this. So we're making tremendous progress, thanks in large part to the really heroic efforts of Central Hudson and linemen and women from across the country that rallied here. I want to thank you. The other thing that we've been doing, as the governor alluded to, that's been very important, we've been sending out our members of our law enforcement community, first responders, door to door, really checking on people on a very human level to just make sure they're okay, not just safe and warm, but that they know that someone's out there that's going to come to their door, make sure that on a human level they're doing all right. And we've had some very powerful stories from a senior in one of our towns whose insulin had frozen, and we were able to get that thawed and administer the insulin. We had a very senior woman come to the door, visibly shivering, and our law enforcement were able to convince her to come out of her home reluctantly and get some shelter in one of our warming centers. So that work will continue. We still have 7,000 or 8,000 households without power now 4 days in. And as Commissioner Bray said, looking forward now, we're going to be here working until the very last homes are turned on, but even beyond that, to make sure that the damage occurring, that people are getting the help they need from their insurers, and really just to make sure folks can get through this. So again, I want to thank really an army of people that have deployed here to our community. We thank you, we appreciate you, and to the residents of the county, thank you for hanging in there. We're almost through this, and we certainly won't rest until we are. It's now my privilege to introduce another partner and colleague, Senator Hinchy, who on Friday morning, as we were kind of figuring out the plan, we were all huddled, figuring out where to stand up shelters, was on the phones with us standing up the Woodstock and Saugerty shelters. So it really has been a team effort, Senator, and thank you very much. And come on up.
Thank you very much. And first and foremost, too, I wanted to thank you, Governor Hochul, and of course Commissioner Bray, for deploying and recognizing how badly we were going to be hit here in Ulster County, and getting ahead of it as much as you did, and making sure that we had the resources. And of course, County Executive Ryan, it's been said already, but it bears repeating. This has been really, truly an incredible partnership community effort to get this all back and running between the multiple warming shelters that were set up in a matter of very quick hours, knowing that the temperature was going to drop that night, but getting people used to the idea that they should make a plan, they should go there, to the town board members, to the community volunteers who have themselves been sleeping in the shelters, making sure that people have the resources they need there, to the other community members who have been buying food, the businesses that have been buying food, and different types of games and activities for people to use while in these shelters. It has been truly, truly remarkable to see how quickly we all came together, and everybody came together to work on this. It's been really, really incredible. And one thing I do want to say is, while we have made, and Central Hudson especially, has made such incredible strides forward to bring back a lot of power. Our power came back on last night. Thank you personally. But there's still 8,000, 9,000 people without it. And so I think it's important too, as we plan for the future, for people today who will not have power tonight, stick to your plan. Make a plan. Those shelters are still up for a reason. They are warm. I have been there. We have all been there. And they're quite comfortable. They're much more comfortable than your home will be. So please stick to the plan. Please make sure that you're taken care of, that your neighbors are taken care of. And continue to call our hotlines, call my office if there's anything, any questions you have about resources or transportation. We are so close to the end of this year that we want to make sure we still see this strong through to the end. So thank you all. And with that, I have the privilege of introducing the people who have been working very hard night and day to get our power back. Ryan with Central Hudson.
Thank you, Senator Hinchy, and Governor, County Executive Ryan, all of those that have kind of exhibited very kind words to those of Central Hudson. For those that are in the field, it's a lot of long days, it's a lot of long hours. The kind words go a long mile in keeping everybody's spirits up as we work through this. Just to level set with the extent of damage, again, my name is Ryan Hawthorne. I'm the Vice President of Electric Engineering and Operations. I do serve as Central Hudson's Incident Commander during this ice storm restoration event. To date, we have experienced 81 broken poles and over 24 reports of wires down, almost entirely without the county, within the county, excuse me. And this is an all hands on deck event for all of us at Central Hudson. Employees remain fully engaged in this effort. As the governor said, we've had over 64,000 Central Hudson customers impacted in total, with nearly 48,000 of which were within Ulster County. As of right now, we are just under 6,800 remaining out. Almost exclusively within the county. We have eclipsed 90% restoration, and we do expect to achieve 95% restoration by the end of the day today. The pockets of the hardest hits areas such as Marbletown, Rosendale, the Hochul mountain area of Woodstock, those areas will continue into Tuesday, unfortunately, due to the amount of damage that we are seeing. Specific restoration times by town are available on our website and as well as our social media. We also did some proactive outreach to those areas that are hardest hit, to Senator Hinchy's point, to make a plan. Those that we do expect to extend into tomorrow, we did some advanced communications with, just so they understand what the true impact is and they can plan accordingly. County Executive Ryan spoke to it. This is an army we have amassed here at Central Hudson. This is the largest field force we have ever assembled for any storm in our over 120-year history, and they are in a half of a county square area. We have over 900 line workers, several hundred support personnel supporting them out in force in Ulster County. I really want to thank our utility partners. These folks have come from across the nation. As Ulster County has been ground zero of this, all of our peers across the state have not hesitated to reach out and offer assistance, so we thank them. We continue our daily outreach with our vulnerable population, still without power. That number is around 22 and continues to drop. We've been coordinating that outreach with our partners at the Ulster County Sheriff's Office. Our water and dry ice distribution has continued today and will continue until our restoration is complete. And I really want to emphasize, thanks to our partners in county, state, local, as well as law enforcement. The county has provided some assistance to us in terms of personnel for flagging support, as you have a small army on the roadways Making sure traffic works unimpeded is critical. So thank you to the county for the additional support. I really want to stress safety when it comes to this. We are seeing warming weather today, finally, thankfully, starting to see some ice melt. But do recognize circumstances can change very quickly. As trees start to see ice melt occur, you may see additional damage. We have seen that continuously. We saw several instances of that yesterday where starting to see a little bit of melt and then refreeze, trees break. So if you are out and about, please be cognizant of your surroundings. Also be aware there are a lot of people on the roads. So please use caution when driving, particularly when you are entering work zones. We are committed to getting each and every customer restored. We know some customers will have damage on their customer-owned equipment, and we are prepared to assist and coordinate with those customers to get them back online as soon as possible. We will not rest until every customer has been restored, and the job only continues from there, making sure that we have any additional damage out there. There's been a lot of damaged trees in this, making sure there aren't any additional threats as we move forward. So I really appreciate the county, the state, the city's support in these efforts, and we will get through this together as one community. So thank you, and at this point, I'll turn it back to Governor Hochul.
Well, there you have it, our complete storm assessment, and actually, I was wondering if the numbers were gonna get even better even as I walked through the door, because I was told it was 7,800. You tell me 6,800, it might be 5,800 by the time we leave now, so I'll speak a little longer in hopes of that. But again, if you're one of those family members, every minute is a minute too long, so we understand what they're going through and want to be as supportive as we can. Before we take questions, I'll just give a quick update on the other storm we continue to weather, and that is the COVID storm, although our forecast is looking much better. And if you look at yesterday's infection rate statewide, it is 4.2%. The Mid-Hudson area is about 4%. So we've not seen these kind of numbers since November 8th in terms of our positive cases overall statewide. And our hospitalizations are down about 78 from yesterday. So we are improving. Hospitalizations are getting better all across the state, and that's exactly the metric I'm looking at. As we've explained from the very beginning, it starts with the infection. If people can self-resolve at home, that's great, but those who are sick end up having to go into hospital, sometimes in ICU, sometimes even worse. And that is the number I watch to make sure we have the capacity to take care of everybody. So I'll be making another announcement on Wednesday about one of our mask or vaccination requirements that are in place, that have been in place since early to mid-December, when we first saw the early signs that this Omicron could be wildly contagious, and it certainly was. And so we put in some protections in place to help our workplaces and help employees and customers. So we'll be having a conversation about that, if you can just hold on till Wednesday's news conference. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions. If you have specific questions about the recovery, you can direct them to the utility companies, Jackie Bray or the county executive. Otherwise, let's see what's on your mind.
Well, first to you, Central Hudson's been called out by the state in the past for not being responsive enough in restoring service. What could they have done to be more proactive?
I think they've done an amazing job at this point. I mean, you think about the fact that just a couple of days ago, we had 65,000 people without power. We could still be looking at 40 to 50,000 this many days after, when you have the severity of a storm. What I want to explain, this is not cleanup after a Friday event, where all the wires that were going to come down were down, and you just start saying, okay, how do we clean this up? This has been ongoing through the weekend. Literally, power lines were falling Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it creates a dangerous situation where when those trees are still falling, it is dangerous for someone to repair them in that particular place. So they had to do the ones that fell Friday. So that's the different dynamic that we're experiencing here. So they've been very responsive in terms of keeping us engaged. So there have been dramatic improvements in communications. Also, again, bringing in 1,000 workers from all over the country at their expense. I mean, this is something that they do in a mutual aid situation, bringing in people from all the utility companies, not just in New York, but all across the country. So I would say that they've been very responsive. Again, we'll analyze this when we're out of this event. We always do. We want to know best practices that were engaged, where we could have done better, we'll tabletop it and say, any lessons learned for the next time. But right now, I believe that the people of this county, who've had their power restored have felt that they've been engaged, and again, not just by the utilities, but state police, our local law enforcement, all the emergency workers have been really, in a rural county, it is tough to do this. This is not going to one neighborhood in suburbia. This is far-reaching, a lot of rural roads, hundreds, thousands of trees that are vulnerable to the ice that accumulates. So that's what we're dealing with, but I'd have to say right now that they're making tremendous progress, and we're looking forward to Tuesday having all the power restored, and 95% by tonight.
Governor, your counterpart in New Jersey, Phil Murphy, has announced that he's going to be rescinding the state's mask mandate in schools. He said that's an important return to normalcy. Do you intend on following his lead?
Well, we are going to assess our situation here in New York. As I mentioned on Wednesday, I'll be making an announcement about our vaccination mask requirement for businesses. What I understand Governor Murphy is talking about is a situation 1 month from now. So I'm going to continue to head in that direction. We're hoping to get to that. I've said that for weeks. That is our goal. But I'm going to continue looking at the metrics. And the one thing I'm asking all parents to do, and the pediatricians who advise them, let's get more children vaccinated so they have that suit of armor they need to be protected, not just against this variant, but this is our third or fourth variant now. So I want to be optimistic. I am optimistic that we're trending in that direction, but I still need the time, and I'm assessing. Tomorrow I have a conversation with school superintendents. I've been in contact with the leaders of every major hospital system to talk about their capacity and what their staffing levels are now, in light of the fact that just literally weeks ago, they were overwhelmed with patients and not having sufficient staff. So I have a lot of metrics I'm examining right now, but that doesn't mean we won't get to that place, but it's just premature at this time to talk about it.
Is there a particular vaccination rate that you want to see in the schools before you rescind the mandate?
I'd like to see it higher than 34%, which is what we're looking at now, for the 5 to 11-year-olds. I know we can do better than that. And again, their older siblings, we're at about 80% for the 12 to 17-year-olds. Let's get those younger kids vaccinated, and certainly we're very hopeful that the FDA will approve the request that's in from, I believe, Pfizer to have a vaccine available for younger children. So that we monitor all this, but also it's not just those hard numbers. It is what our capacity is and what I gather when I talk to experts in Washington, as I have been, neighboring states to know what they're doing, but also our health team, what our health commissioner says in our hospitals as well. So I'm gathering data. I always said I would do that. It's not a knee-jerk reaction, but we are trending in a very, very good direction.
Governor, Dutchess County Sheriff Butch Anderson died back in September, and there's an opportunity for you to appoint a new sheriff. Are there plans for you to do so?
Yes, and our sympathies go out to Sheriff Anderson's family. We sent condolence notes, and I know it was very hard and shocking for Dutchess County. And we have individuals who are being interviewed. There's a process, very strong vetting, background vetting goes on. We interview people, but also beyond what I can do, we make a recommendation to the Senate. So the Senate has to approve this, but I know that we want to get this settled. We want to make sure that there is someone who has the permanent authority in that place as soon as possible. So that process is very much ongoing.
One more. Anyone else?
You got a chance to tour some of the storm damage. Just what was your initial reaction walking down that road, seeing the down power lines and the down trees?
An extraordinary sense that the people who are willing to go into those circumstances in the dark, use buzzsaws, clear the road, then get on these poles and go up into the sky. They're icy, dangerous, in darkness, with electricity all around them. These are incredible acts of heroism that goes unsung too often. So I was struck by I've seen this before, but I don't know that everybody else appreciates that. But also, it is also heartbreaking to see the damage that is done to all the beautiful trees. I mean, this is one of the beautiful assets of this area. It's one of the most beautiful parts of our state because of the winding back roads that we have in communities like Kingston and over to Woodstock and Sauger. These are charming communities, and to see these beautiful trees that have been there, some for a century, down by the ice, it's also sad. I saw that happen in Buffalo. We lost over 13,000 trees that were all over 100 years old during a major storm. And that's just a loss of part of your identity to lose all those trees too. So those are some of the thoughts I had as we toured the road. But also gratitude for all the people that are out there cleaning them up and taking care of us, opening up those roads again. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming out.